What up? What up? What up? Welcome into another post-game live edition of Green with Envy. As always, it's your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Pack your bags. We're going back to Miami. Somebody call up Will Smith. Let him know we're coming. As always, joining me today is my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Maneikis. Man, the vibes are hitting hard tonight, my friend. How you doing?
They are back, man. Celtics are back. I'm feeling great, dude. Feeling great. How could you not feel great? Celtics were, they were pretty much done for the season after game 3. And now here we are heading back to Miami for what hopefully is the Miami Heat's last home game of this season.
Yeah, man. It's I mean, here's the thing. We knew that this was an option after game 3. This wasn't off the table after game 3. It felt like it. It felt like it was off the table. But we knew that there was a path to get here, to get back to the Garden, to get back to Miami. There was an avenue. It was just a question of, the team that we saw from the Celtics in game 3. Like we said, we don't like saying this a lot, but they were saying it. I mean, players and coaches formerly of the NBA really don't like saying it. It looked like they quit. It looked like they quit. And for the Celtics to have the last 2 games that they did, to strap up in that second half in Miami in game 4, and then for tonight just to come out from the get-go and really get the crowd into it. Never gave the crowd a chance to not be engaged, was I think really important in this game. And it's, the job's not done, but it's halfway there.
It's halfway there, man. You want to get into this morning box score?
Let's do it, man. Let me get this right here. Let's cue this up. Let's do a good old Boston Celtic morning box score. Morning box score tonight. The Boston Celtics take home a victory in game 5. The series is now 3-2 Miami, heading back to Miami, and the pressure, the tide might be shifting. The energy, some may say, is about to shift. Celtics win tonight 110-97 at the TD Garden. Let's start with the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler tonight, only 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Only had 10 shots and got to the line 6 times. Bam Adebayo, 16 points, 8 rebounds. Caleb Martin kept his hot shooting going and your boy's cold bet streak going. 14 points tonight for him to go along with 5 rebounds. Duncan Robinson, Haywood Highsmith, really nice performances from these 2 guys from Miami. 18 points for Duncan Robinson, 15 points for Haywood Highsmith. No Gabe Vincent. We'll talk about that. If you were following us on IG Live, Adam and I really broke down what that could mean. A lot of that actually played out in this game tonight, as we'll talk about. Let's go over to the Celtics, where there's several guys that we got to talk about tonight. Let's start with the 2 guys that we always got to start with here. Let's go with Jaylen Brown. Had 21 points tonight, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, only 1 turnover, 9 of 18 from the field. Seemed like he might have found a little bit of something with his 3-point stroke again, 3 of 5 from downtown. Jason Tatum doing it all tonight, 21 points, 21 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, 2 steals for him, 8 of 16 from the field. Derek White and Marcus Smart, the backcourt had themselves a night. Derek White, 24 points, knocking down 6 of 8 threes. Marcus Smart, 23 points, 5 steals. Once again, 5 steals for the reigning defensive player of the year. He's 7 of 12 from the field, 4 of 6 from downtown. A couple other role guys we'll talk about here that had some really big impact for the Celtics. And then a couple of key stats that we were really honing in on last podcast with Adam, as well as on our IG Live. Turnovers and the 3-point line. Celtics win both of those tonight, 16-9, 16 turnovers for the Miami Heat, 16 made threes for the Boston Celtics to only 9 turnovers. Greg, this game is, well, I was already believing. I'll be real. I was trying to keep it contained. I was already believing again after 1 road win in game 4, and now I'm all the way back in. How about you?
Yeah, they got me. The Celtics got me. I tweeted out earlier today. I was like, oh, I'm starting to believe we can win this series. Because, when you see this team play the way that they played tonight, it's just like, this is why we have felt like this team had the potential to win an NBA Finals this year, is because when they do lock in, when they're forced to focus, they are pretty much an unstoppable force, especially when they're bringing it on the defensive end. As you said, we forced 16 Miami Heat turnovers. We had 16 3-pointers. The Miami Heat only had 9 3-pointers. We only had 9 turnovers, right? So it's like the complete inverse, which was crazy. But I think we got to talk about the defense first, because from the very beginning of that game, it felt like the Celtics were playing defense the way that the Golden State Warriors figured out how to play defense on us in the finals last year. Super active hands, digging down into every drive. Anytime Bam Adebayo is going to the hoop, we are just digging down from all different angles. We're not letting Jimmy Butler play one-on-one. And if he is playing one-on-one, it's like not quite the force that he was coming off with in the first couple games of the series. We're really bogging them down, making them think, just because we're picking up the ball much higher with a lot more pressure. And that defense, I mean, Marcus Smart, man, 5
Unbelievable tonight.
as you said.
Unbelievable.
This was one of the best Marcus Smart games I've seen in a while. And then Derek White, him going off for those 6 3-pointers, 6 for 8, just absolutely locked in all night. And it was great to see Derek White play to this level, because we haven't seen it, because for whatever reason, Joe Mazzulla just kind of gave up on Derek White coming into this series. And then finally, I don't know if it was because Brogdon was hurt, but he finally realized that Derek White probably deserves more minutes. And this is the Derek White that we've been waiting for, man. At the end of the season, Derek White was averaging like 36 minutes a game, where most nights he was the guard that was getting most minutes. And this was the same thing tonight. He played 37 minutes. Smart, although he was amazing, only played 30.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a Derek White game for sure, right? If we have to label this one guy's game, Derek White going 6 of 8. And we had talked about, in this series, he's been good. The last 2 games he's been back to being what we've dubbed the 3rd best player on the Celtics, hands down. Derek White's gotten back to being that guy. But just sticking with that defense, Greg, the way that the defense came out, and in tandem with Jason Tatum, we'll talk about here in a second as well. I think that was so important, because this team has a tendency to get off to slow starts. And so I think, this was something that Adam and I had talked a little bit about, was without Gabe Vincent, number one, the Heat are running out of bodies. Number 2, they're running out of guys they really trust with the ball in their hand. Not that Gabe Vincent's their primary ball handler, even though he plays that point guard role, but it's another guy that they feel confident can handle the ball. If he ends up, needing to make a decision, they feel comfortable with that. So we talked a lot about trying to pick up those pressure points on the Heat and make them put the ball in the hands of guys that they don't want to. And I think the Celtics did a really good job of that tonight. They had 4 turnovers before the first TV timeout. I think that set the tone. I think Jason Tatum came out and had an unbelievable first quarter, got downhill, had 2 massive dunks, and really kept the crowd into it. Because I think that was something that in our IG pregame, Adam and I got asked the question, do we think the Garden was gonna play a factor tonight? And we jokingly talked about, man, that could go one of 2 ways, because I think, if the team didn't come out and get off to such a hot start and be connected, like we said, this was very easy. We're just at game 3 days ago, 4 days ago, what the vibes were like. That could have seeped back into the arena really easily if the Celtics didn't come out the way they did. And I think the Celtics defense mixed with Jason Tatum, who set the tone and then kind of took a back seat as Derek White got hard, as Smart got hot, as Jaylen Brown started to refine his shot. I think Tatum did a really good job, in my opinion, tonight of having a good feel for the game, right? Knowing that he didn't need to go, not that he wasn't trying to go God mode, but he didn't need to kind of do that tonight, because the ball movement was there, the connectivity on defense, pushing the pace, all of that was there, so that it wasn't all just on Jason Tatum's shoulders tonight.
Yeah, when you look at the Heat box score, man, the guy that led them in minutes, my guy Haywood Hightower, Haywood Highsmith.
Hey, man, he was good tonight. He was impressive.
Yeah, but I mean, the Miami Heat aren't winning if Haywood Highsmith.
Right, that's an issue.
It's playing 36 minutes in a game. That just speaks to the attrition that's happening to that roster right now. When Gabe Vincent went down, I'm a big Gabe Vincent guy, man. I'm the biggest Gabe Vincent guy on this podcast. When he went down with that ankle injury and I saw he was going to be out, I was like, who is going to even bring the ball up for them?
Yeah.
Like, when they got into the half court, it was an issue, but even getting the ball over half court was an issue. Like, there were sometimes they gave the ball to Caleb Martin, but Caleb Martin is like one of those 0.5 seconds guys who he can make really good reads, but you're not going to ask him to bring the ball up 94 feet. You can't ask Jimmy Butler to do that, because you're just going to exhaust him. Jimmy looked exhausted tonight. Max Strus don't do that.
The fourth. They basically rested Jimmy majority of the fourth, right? They took him and Bam out and kind of waved the flag early. Can't lie, I got a little bit nervous when they kind of crawled back to 10 with like 2 minutes left. I was like, all right, all the scrubs are in. I think we're good, but there's a little nervousness in my belly right now.
Yeah, I felt it too, and then Sam Hauser hit the 30-footer, and we were good. Yeah, but and then to finish off my point on that, Kyle Lowry, I mean, that was about as bad of a Kyle Lowry game as the Heat fans could have asked for. Like, he was awful in this game. Marcus Smart, Derek White, they've been outplayed by the Heat guards in this series, and tonight was the first night they really put their stamp on this game. And I think we should take a quick break, and then I want to talk a lot more about Jason Tatum, because this was one of the most evolved, most nuanced Jason Tatum performances we've seen.
All right, Greg. So let's keep going here, and let's get back to Jason Tatum tonight. He goes just about 41 minutes here and really kind of filled the stat line here. 21 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, 2 steals, and I don't know. I haven't seen the post game. We're doing this right now, right after the game. I haven't seen any of the post game pressers, but it felt like there was a lot more ownership that Jason Tatum took all throughout this game, but specifically, just taking on the Jimmy Butler challenge. You saw him matched up a lot more kind of mano-a-mano. And, I know I've seen on Twitter and such that a lot of fans have called for, I want, because there's the stories of Jimmy and Bam fighting over who's going to take Tatum in game 1 or 2 at the Celtics. We don't have that from our stars. Now, I don't know if Tatum said anything, if this was just part of the game plan, but he certainly stepped up to the plate tonight with his defense.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we've talked about Tatum and his evolution as a player. He's had moments throughout his career where he plays great defense against some of the best offensive wings in the game. A couple of years ago, that one matchup against Kawhi Leonard where he gave Kawhi problems, and you never see anybody give Kawhi problems. Obviously, last year in the first round against the Brooklyn Nets, his ability to shut down Kevin Durant and block Kevin Durant's shot at the apex multiple times in a series just speaks to when Jason Tatum sees someone where he's like, all right, like, this dude is on my level. I have to bring it on the defensive end because nobody else on my team. I look around, I see defensive player of the year. I see all defensive team. I see all these guys that have what it takes to be great defensive players. None of them are 6'9", right? Jason Tatum is that one guy who has every single tool, and he has those broad shoulders where he can absorb the impact of a Jimmy Butler drive. And he's also just a really heady player on the defensive end. When Tatum is locked in on defense, there's nobody on the Celtics more suited for that matchup against Jimmy Butler. But I mean, to me, the thing that continues to stand out with Jason Tatum is his rebounding. He was under the betting line tonight. The betting line, I think, was 9.5. He only had 8 rebounds tonight, but he felt like he got all of the big rebounds in this game. And then those 11 assists, man. The fact that Jason Tatum is putting up games of 21, 11, and 8, he has like 30, 15, and 8 games. Like, he's always around.
There's a really good stat on the Brock. I can't remember what it was, but it was basically that 30, 10, and 5 line, that it was only him and Jokic for this postseason, and it's a very rare accomplishment, in most postseasons to have even one guy do it. Never mind 2. And for Tatum to be on that list just shows, where he's leveling up to as part of an overall game. I want to switch here for a little bit. Let's go to Jaylen Brown here for a second, Greg, because I know I want to call in I'm going to page the shot doctor here for a second. I know that, you've been kind of looking at his shot here and feeling like it's been a little bit off. Tonight he goes 9 of 18. He goes 3 of 5 from 3. He shot that first air ball and had a couple of questionable decisions early on. I started to get a little bit worried, but he rebounded at least to a certain degree for tonight. Did you see anything different? Notice anything different? Or, just one of those nights where it just happened to go in?
Well, he has a couple pet moves that he really likes. So first, if I remember correctly, his 3 3-pointers. The first one was a corner 3 that was wide open off of a double team of Tatum. Tatum makes a great hockey assist to Horford. Bam, overcommits.
That was awesome, the way Tatum set that up.
Yeah, I mean, he just drew the defense out. Bam overcommitted to Horford, probably because Jaylen's been struggling from 3. Horford trusted the pass, made the pass to JB, knocks down the corner 3. And that's where JB's made his living. Before he became Jaylen Brown, he was the guy that just kind of sat in the corner and hit corner 3. So it was nice to see him hit that first shot. And then Jaylen has a couple pet moves that he likes to go to. He likes that little right hand pull up. Most right-handed players are going to go left-hand hezzy, left-hand hang dribble into that pull-up. Jalen actually doesn't do that. Jalen prefers to go right-hand hezzy into the pull-up. And he also has that little through the legs James Harden jump back dribble that he does into the three-pointer. And those were 2 of the 3s that he did. Now I'm soloed here and I'm freaking out, man. Why did you just do that to me? Will maybe just got kicked off and I don't know why. So I'm just going to keep this going. Hopefully Will can get back in. I know we do have some people in the chat right now. Oh, there he is. Okay. Well, I was pivoting. Your audio is not plugged in. I don't know what happened there, but I was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna go like Bleacher Report halftime, and we're just gonna talk to the people in the chat.
I don't know what happened there. So just on the podcast, I just somehow got kicked out of the podcast and recording studio, but it's all good.
You're back. What happened was I thought you just like soloed me. So I just like saw myself and it was just me. And I was like, okay, Will thinks I'm cooking right now. I guess I'm going to keep cooking.
Got some IG material cooking right now. Let's see what we got out of this.
But to finish my thought on Jalen Brown, I actually didn't like a lot of the shots he ended up taking in this game outside of the layups that he got, which I think were great. Jalen Brown going against Max Strus seems like it would be a good idea, but Max Strus just like plays really good defense against Jalen Brown and forces him to take those whirling dervish Kobe fadeaways that Jalen's not the best at. So Jalen, I thought obviously it was really great to see him hit 3 3-pointers because he's been struggling, and Jalen's my favorite player, and I want him to have these games where he breaks out. But I mean, even when Jalen Brown broke out tonight, he still only had 21 points, right? We're still not seeing those games where Jalen's going for 30 or going for 40. But if this is what Jalen Brown can give us in these playoffs, that's probably enough to get us into a game 7 back home where anything can happen, because we're going to need both of these guys to play great games again in Miami, because you can't count on Derek White to go 6 for 8 from 3. You can't count on Marcus Smart to go 4 for 6 from 3.
Yeah, it's great to have those games. And that's, those are typically the role players step up at home. That doesn't necessarily always travel on the road. And, Adam and I said, at a minimum, we need Jalen Brown to give us something along these stat lines, right? This has to be kind of the baseline for JB. If the Celtics are going to pull off a 3-0 comeback, like that's got to be the baseline. And, Jason Tatum, only 21 points, but we've talked about all the other things he did tonight, knowing that he had really great feel for the game. And then you get the big exceptional games from Derek White and Marcus Smart. Both these guys, both offensively and defensively, having really big performances. But, and obviously that's even bigger with the Brogdon situation now.
Yeah, right? I feel like we should talk about Brogdon for a second.
Let's talk about it, because, Malcolm Brogdon tried to give it a go in that first half. It was very clear now that we kind of know the full scope of what's going on. We have been, on the Bleacher Report stream that we did last game, some of the past podcasts, we've been a little bit critical of his decision-making, but also, the shot just wasn't falling. And when the shot hasn't been falling and we were questioning decision-making, it was like, all right, what is Brogdon really going to be able to do out there? Now it feels like you can see it. Like we talked about, we were just texting during the game. He was really short on the 2 shots he took, and it felt like it was coming, from that forearm. And so who knows what his status is going to be kind of going forward. But that made it even bigger that, Derek White and Marcus Smart were able to step up with the massive games that they had tonight.
Yeah. And that's why, the Celtics putting themselves in this 3-0 hole, we don't have a lot of room for error, and Malcolm Brogdon not being in the rotation tonight, like we were able to do it tonight at home because we were so locked in on defense, and Brogdon, even on the defensive end, he looked slow. I don't know if he was just disheartened because of his shot, but there were a couple closeouts that were super lazy. He let Duncan Robinson get free for a wide open 3 at one point where he just closed and ran by him. He didn't stop short on the closeout. He didn't run him off the 3-point line. It was just very weird effort by Brogdon, but then he didn't come back in. Right. So clearly something was bothering him, whether it was the elbow or if there was a lower body injury they didn't tell us about. But, going into game 6, I don't know how the Celtics are going to be able to fill his absence if we don't get a apex game from Derek White or Marcus Smart. We're going to need Tatum and Brown to be a 30-30 night, I think, if Brogdon's not going to be able to play, because as I said, we can't rely on Derek White and Marcus Smart to play at that level, because Miami's going to be okay with Marcus Smart shooting 6 threes, right? They're going to be like, all right, dude, keep doing it. We saw that last year in game 7 last year. They were like, all right, last 3 minutes of the game, let's just make Marcus Smart do everything. And he couldn't do it, so we know that Spo is going to try and figure out a scheme so that those guys don't either he's betting on them to beat us, or he's like, all right, we're going to take Derek White out of this game. Right. If we take Derek White out of this game, they don't have enough, because Rob Williams can't do anything on offense. Al Horford hasn't been doing much this whole series on offense, even though he played a lot better tonight. And he's starting to figure out Bam, which is great.
Yep. Massive on the offensive rebounds for Al tonight. 5 offensive rebounds.
Yeah, Al was great tonight. And then Grant Williams, he didn't do much on offense tonight, but once again, 27 minutes, and he's going to have to step up. It seems like he's going to be the guy to fill Brogdon's void. And you can pretty easily make up that with more White minutes, more Smart minutes, and more Jays on the court. So we can still go 7 deep because Grant is back in the rotation. But Brogdon's, 45% shooting from 3, we're going to sorely miss that. As you said, we haven't really been thrilled with how Brogdon has been playing within the flow of the offense. He does seem to ball stop a lot. So like the first sub, and I want to talk about Mazzulla here in a second.
Oh, yeah.
But the first sub, you realize that he took out Horford, Smart, and Brown, right? All 3 of those guys came out so that you don't have a Brogdon and Brown pairing on the court, because those two do not play well together at all. But I think we should take that second break, and then let's talk about Mazzulla.
Okay. All right, sticking with game 5 here before we get to set everything up here for game 6. Let's talk a little bit about Joe Mazzulla. Old, crazy Joe Mazzulla. Listen, we have criticized him fairly. We've also provided the context for it as well with, some of the disadvantages that he's had. Tonight, I got to give him his props. I have to give him his props. One of the biggest things that we've been hammering home, low-hanging fruit, as we say every single time, is that he doesn't have the feel, or I don't want to say know-how, but just hasn't been able to find the right timing for his timeouts. Tonight, he was very aggressive with
perfect game.
Yeah, I mean, there was about 3 different instances, I think, of Miami feeling like, Celtics were up, maybe 17, and all of a sudden it's down to 11, and usually Joe Mazzulla would let that get to about 5, maybe less, before he calls a timeout. And it was quick. Timeout. Got it. And I know you were very impressed with this as you were texting me about it during the game.
Bro, he called a timeout with 30 seconds left in the third quarter with the Celtics up by 18 points. Right? He was like, this possession is so critical. 30 seconds left in the third quarter. He calls a timeout. Celtics up 18. We get a bucket, and then I think Caleb Martin hits that pull up 2 on Rob to get it back to 18. But like, that shows you how he's recognizing the importance that playoff basketball, probably a little different than the regular season, Joe, where every single moment is critical, because you cannot allow a team to have any sense of hope. I was surprised, honestly, to your point earlier, I was surprised he didn't call a timeout with 2 minutes left when the game got to like 13 points. I was like, you know what? Joe's pitching a perfect game right now with these timeouts, but he was like, fuck it. I'm going to let them play through this one, and I think,
got to give him one. If that's the one that we're giving him, I'm happy that it's that one.
But like, I know we were joking about it, but you were like, yeah, I mean, what if Joe gets addicted to calling timeouts? He just like didn't realize how great it feels to stop somebody else's run because he's never done it before.
The power.
But it makes total sense, because he's like clearly got that like addict personality where he's like when he likes something, when he finds something, he fucking watches a town 4 days a week. Like, that's insane. The fact that he has that type of
Muay Thai
mindset
or whatever it is, and all of a sudden he's like flying in all these master professors to work with.
Right. So now he's like, you know what? I've studied the tapes, and it actually looks like calling a timeout probably does work in the playoffs. I did it tonight, and it felt fucking awesome. I'm just going to keep doing that. Anytime I have the opportunity to call a timeout, I'm going to call a timeout because it feels so damn good. And now, honestly, like we jest, but I was so impressed with Mazzulla tonight, and I was impressed with him in the last game as well. This is what we've been saying. He has all these things, like all these pieces to be a great coach. It's like the basic shit from game to game, like the adjustments from game to game, and then the ability to just recognize when you need to stem the tide and call a timeout. And he did that tonight. And it's just like, dude, Joe, this is what you've been saying, dude. Like, you've been so stubborn all year. It's so fucking obvious when you need to call a timeout, just do it. And he did it tonight. I was very proud of him.
Joe's about to become the Tom Amansky of coaches, start calling timeout so much as start making instructional videos for how to call a timeout, when to call a timeout. Joe Mazzulla is the new brand ambassador for timeouts. He's got deals with timeouts. Yeah. I'm loving
hostage
this idea.
tape and timeouts.
I'm loving this idea of Joe Mazzulla becoming addicted. But no, great job by Joe Mazzulla tonight. And, when Brogdon went out, I texted you, like, maybe we see a little bit of Peyton Pritchard. You came back with Sam Hauser. And actually, I don't know if we're quite fully ready to get off this game and go to game 6. I think Hauser, actually, after you said that, and the more I thought about it, is my preference for maybe some more minutes, because you can fill the Brogdon ball handling duties with, like you said, more White, more Smart, more Tatum, sprinkle in a little bit of Jalen, obviously Al in the middle, like with the zone, or if we need to, like there's ways to make up for that. I think it's that Brogdon spacing, and someone who maybe only needs to play 7 minutes, 8 minutes, but could get you 9 points, And so I think that's where, and the size, right? Just Sam's size, I think, versus Peyton's size, and where Miami would look to go immediately to go pick on Peyton with Jimmy Butler. They'll probably still look to go, pick on Sam Hauser like most teams do. But, as we've said, he's held up better than you would think. And then he's just, 5 inches taller than Peyton Pritchard. So that's just going to be, a better matchup for those reasons. So
and then maybe it's a little mind fuck for Duncan Robinson, right? You throw Sam Hauser on him, and then Duncan Robinson's like,
anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
This is 2 straight pods with you singing on the pod, and I'm into it.
It's becoming a thing. But yeah, no, I like that idea of Sam Hauser potentially getting some run. I will say real quick on this game 5, I did want to talk about I want to talk about the big men for the Celtics real quick here, because their stat lines don't necessarily jump out. We talked about real quick Al Horford's rebounding. He had 11 boards. Part of the reason that Jason Tatum didn't need to have 11, 12 rebounds. Al had 11 tonight. Usually he's more around 7, 8 rebounds, but he was so active on the offensive glass tonight. Had 5 offensive rebounds. And then you got Grant Williams, who I think just continued to do what he's done all series. And I thought Rob Williams, even though he only has, 6 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist and 1 block, I thought he was incredibly active at certain parts of this game. And I'm going to have to go back and pull it up tomorrow, and I'll tweet this out. But I think it was the first possession in which Peyton Pritchard checked in, and it just felt like Rob went side to side. He never got a deflection, never got a block, but he hovered over every single action that Miami ran. And I think I ended up with Marcus Smart on the floor getting one of his 5 steals. But Rob Williams was helping, he was defending, he was getting back into the play. It was everywhere the Heat turned. It was back to that Rob Williams factor that we've talked about, of just the fear of Rob Williams, of damn, I don't know when this guy's coming, where this guy's coming from. And so, despite his stat line not saying that there was an impact, I feel like Rob Williams was impactful. I think the whole Celtics front line did really well tonight in this game.
Yeah, and that's all we need out of Rob, right? We just need him to be that defensive presence, so that guys like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo are thinking twice when they're going up, when they're driving into the lane. I mean, obviously there's that huge block that Rob had on Jimmy, and then he beat him to the loose ball. The ball went out of bounds. But like those moments out of Rob, when he's first to the floor, or he's first to the sky, as I like to say with Rob, like he's always the first one to tip a ball that nobody else can really get to. I like to see Rob Williams on the court just for that defensive impact that he has, even though he's not giving you like a whole lot on the offensive end. Like he does offer that lob threat that's there. If the Celtics want to take advantage of it, they can.
Yeah, he hit a little mid-range jumper tonight, kind of in between, like a little push shot or a little floater. He almost took the longer mid-range jumper, took one dribble in, got it up. I mean, hey, listen, Rob's field goal percentage is amazing in this.
Yeah, shooting like
90-something
Yeah,
it's
insane. But I think the big men are also going to be important for Game 6. So why don't we start talking about Game 6 here, and then we can get out of here.
Yeah, Game 6, Saturday night in Miami. Listen, Celtics, if they win this game, I don't think anyone's going to be picking against them in Game 7 at home if the Celtics win this game in Miami. Now, this is the game that is going to test everything, because we talked about this on the last episode, right? What the Celtics are attempting to do is that team that makes a 30-point comeback in the middle of a game and closes the gap to within a bucket. Maybe even they get the lead. But by the end of the game, they just run out of steam. The other team makes one play to kind of save their ass, and that team walks away with the win. And while it's a great moral 30-point comeback, you still walk away with the loss. That's kind of the predicament I feel like the Celtics are potentially in. And this is going to be the biggest test because you're not going to have the fans on your side. When you get to game 7, you're going to have the fans on your side. No matter what in that game, the fans are going to keep pulling, just hoping that even if it doesn't look good, it ends up like game 6 in Philly, and Jason Tatum, pulls up at the end and puts on his cape. Celtics are going to have at least something to fall back on. Going into Miami, obviously wouldn't say it's the toughest crowd. We give their fans a lot of shit. We see a lot of red seats, coming back from halftime. But it is still an away game, right? However, one the Celtics feel very, very comfortable in. I think on the broadcast, they said they've won 4 out of their last 5 games in Miami, including game 7, even though it was by the skin of their teeth. They still did. They still came out and got that win. But this team likes to make it tough on themselves. Saturday night will be the biggest test that they've faced trying to get this to a game 7.
Yeah, well, what happened against the Philadelphia 76ers in game 6?
It was a disaster for 3.5 quarters, and then Jason Tatum put on a cape, and Celtics came away with a win.
The Celtics won. What happened last year against the Milwaukee Bucks in game 6?
Celtics won on the road. Celtics won on the road.
This is what we do, man. This is what the Celtics do. Forget the fact that we were down 3-0. That doesn't even matter anymore. It's a 3-2 series. You can win a series down 3-2, as the Celtics have proved that.
They love to do that.
They love to prove that, right? So, although we were down 3-0, like, you have to wipe that clean. And we have all of the momentum right now. Like, all the pressure is on Miami. The Celtics are now playing with confidence. They're looking in the mirror and seeing the versions of themselves that everyone has seen for so many years, right? We're like, these guys are it. Like, they talk about Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum, like all these things, like, these guys, this is like what we always come to expect from the Boston Celtics is like Marcus Smart's going to be diving on the floor, getting loose balls, digging down, getting steals. Al Horford is going to be playing with energy. Jason Tatum is going to be a two-way superstar. Jaylen Brown's built for that moment. Those baseline drives in transition, dunking off of 2 feet, slamming on people. Like, this is what we have come to expect from this team. And like, the only thing that was really holding them back, as Jaylen Brown said at the end of the game when he was getting interviewed, he was like, the only team that can beat us is ourselves. And like, I totally agree with that because the Celtics are the better team. They are the better team versus the Miami Heat. It's just like we dug ourselves this hole, but now that we're at the top of the ditch right now. You remember Homeward Bound, Will? Do you remember that movie Homeward Bound?
I do, with all the dogs.
Yeah, with the dogs. And there's that one dog in the ditch that was trying to climb himself out, and the other animals kind of abandoned him. And then he comes home at the end of the movie, and I think what's his name? Chance. I think his name's Chance. Chance and Shadow. I think it's Shadow. I think the dog's name is Shadow, but we're Shadow.
Is it Shine? We're Shine.
We're Shine. Digging ourselves
Shadow
out
and
of
Shine
that
playing Xbox?
Digging ourselves out of that ditch, and we're going to run home back for game 7.
Hey, man, as you're talking, I'm kind of scrolling through Twitter here. Here's just a quote from Jimmy Butler on Grant Williams. He's a big part of what they try to do. He switches. He can shoot the ball. I just don't know if I'm the best person to talk to. Saw another one. Jimmy Butler's not singing right now. I feel like, how LeBron used to always tweet out before the playoffs when he knew that he just was, a god amongst boys. What was it, like 0 dark 30?
Yeah,
I feel like Jimmy Butler is trying to put himself into that version right now, but that's where we're at, and this is the other part that I think is so interesting now. I mean, of course, Miami, has the advantage being up 3-2 in the series, but there's a lot of pressure on Miami right now. Coming home, you lose that game, you're 1 game away on the road versus a team that knows that it can beat you, that's playing with one of the best home court advantages, and you're about to make history in the wrong type of way. And you're losing bodies, like we talked about. I think they even said Gabe Vincent is already going to play in game 6. So that was the other part that I thought was a little bit interesting, is that the way that Miami, sat their guys so early, Gabe Vincent not playing tonight, but kind of pregame already acknowledging, yeah, I'll be out there for game 6, that Miami kind of played parts of this game. Like, all right, we've got game 6 at home in our back pocket. That's the one that we're putting all of our chips into. I really think that this game 6 Saturday night, like, get your popcorn. I think this has a chance to be a really special game. I'm already excited for it. We've got 48 hours. You and I are gonna be on a boat party during the day. I'm ready for that game. I am so excited.
Oh yeah. Gonna be on a boat, gonna take a nice midday nap, and then we're gonna watch game 6. We're gonna watch the Celtics attempt to make history with the boys. We're getting together on Saturday.
Oh yeah,
right?
this is a watch in person. I know I saw somebody in the chat here ask if we were doing a stream that day. I understand that it would be awesome, but it's I'll be honest, that's probably not going to happen for your boys that day. We definitely, that's a in-person watching, and then a 3-man weave kind of coming together to set it up for what could be a very historic Game 7 Monday night, but can't get to Game 7 until you win Game 6. So that's what's up first here. Greg, before we sign this off here, give me either a prediction or a key to winning Game 6 for the Celtics.
I think this is a Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown game. I think they both go bananas. I think this is where they put their stamp on it, and they're like, I think 30-30 game. We haven't seen a Jays 30-30 game in a while. I would love to see that from the Celtics. That's the recipe, in my opinion, for the Celtics to win Game 6, is for the superstars to play like superstars. So when we get to Game 7, the role players can do what they do at home, right? But I think this is going to be a players game. And then Joe, my man Joe, just continue to press the right buttons, continue to scheme against that zone, get Tatum in the middle of that zone, be patient. Marcus Smart in the short roll is always a good option against that zone. There's Sam Hauser. I'd like to see a little Sam Hauser, as you said earlier. If the Heat decide to go with a little bit more zone and Brogdon's out, I would like to see a little bit of Sam. But I am expecting a Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. We are still the best duo in the league performance on Saturday.
I'm not convinced of getting to that level with Jaylen Brown quite yet. So that would be my one reservation with that prediction. I think Jason Tatum's going to have a big game. That part I am fully on board with. I think this is.
Can I ask you something real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Worst case scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
Celtics lose Game 6.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum doesn't play well. Are we done with the whole Jason Tatum doesn't step up in big games? Like, even if he doesn't play well in Game 6, like Jason Tatum, he's a superstar. I've seen a lot of people throw this out there that Jason Tatum's like still not that guy. It's like,
I think
he stepped up a lot.
I think during the Bleacher Report stream, I think this was my halftime while you were in the bathroom, and then we switched places. But when I was defending Jason Tatum, because that was one of the comments that was something to that effect. And it was like, guys, we can't say Jason Tatum isn't built for the moment. And we were talking to our buddy Liptag about this too, where it's like, we can't say he's not built for the moment when the Celtics go down 3-0, when literally 7 days ago, he scored 51 points in Game 7. And 2 days before that, scores whatever it was, 14 points in the fourth quarter with the season on the line. You throw in Game 6 from the Bucks last year. The man's got multiple 50-point performances. We just talked about the, 30, 10, and 5 lines that he's putting out there that are only rivaled by Nikola Jokic right now. Like, I think that is put to bed. The thing that one of the things that Adam and I talked about on the IG live today, which maybe we'll do one of those on Saturday here before the game. Might be a little frisky, might be a little interesting. So I'd recommend you guys tune into that one. That could be fun. But one of the things that we had talked about, and I just completely lost my train of thought where I was going with this.
I can read you some Jason Tatum stats.
Yeah, please do that while I think about where I was going with that. I completely
Jason Tatum in the playoffs this year, 27.7 points per game. Let's see, he's 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. Like, what's the Bill Simmons number, right? He always talks about the 42 number. So Tatum's at 30.
I saw Tatum got to last postseason as well.
Yeah, Tatum is over 42. I think he's like with all the actual averages, I think he's at a little over 43. And then you add the steals and the blocks, he's at like 45. So Jason Tatum is having one heck of a postseason.
Yeah,
obviously he's had a couple stinkers in this postseason. The weird games against Philly where he couldn't buy a bucket in the first quarter, in the first half of those games. But I feel like he's put that behind him. I'm fully expecting Jason Tatum to have a big game in Game 6. And even if he doesn't, you know what? Jason Tatum can't be there every single night for you guys. You have plenty of other capable guys on this team that can step up. And if Tatum's not bringing it, everyone else needs to step up. But I'm fully expecting Tatum and Brown to bring it.
So where I was going with that thought before I spaced out for a second here was just that regardless of what happens, Jason Tatum, I'm sure people are going to get emotional depending on how Game 6 goes if it doesn't go the right way for the Celtics. Jason Tatum is the one definitive part of whatever this offseason would look like if things go wrong on Saturday night, that he's coming back to the Celtics. He's everything we're building around. He's the thing that's not changing. That's what Jason Tatum has established, that the Celtics are Jason Tatum's franchise. Whether that's, if we have to relook at Joe Mazzulla, who's obviously on the upswing in this series, whether there's decisions with Jaylen Brown's contract, or if moves need to be made to reshape this team, that's fine, but it's going to be around Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum's going nowhere. That's the one thing that I think we can all agree upon, and that's because of everything you're talking about, the foundation he's laid in these big games of, listen, he can't be Michael Jordan, couldn't be Kobe Bryant, couldn't be Steph Curry, can't be Kevin Durant, can't always be that dude every single time when you're down 3-0, down 3-1, make the full comeback, be the guy to score 40, 50. Like they're those dudes because they can do it and they do it more frequently than others, but there's going to be a couple nights where that doesn't happen. And so maybe that's game 6. Maybe that runs out of steam, or maybe Tatum just continues to build on that legacy. We'll see. That's what's coming up on Saturday night. Saturday's a legacy builder for whether it's Jimmy Butler, whether it's Jason Tatum, whether it's Jaylen Brown. But there's legacies that are being built right now in this series. Celtics attempting to be the first team ever to come back from 3-0. Currently 0-150 are NBA teams in that endeavor. Celtics looking to be that one. Hey, don't let us get one. Don't let us get one, they said. So far, they're right. So far, the Celtics on their way to making that comeback. Game 6 Saturday night. That's going to do it for this episode of Green with Envy. Boston Celtics 110-97 winners over the Miami Heat. Heading back to Miami, Greg. I'm excited to watch that game. I can't wait to talk about it leading up to it and afterwards. Any final thoughts that you got here before we send the people out here with some cool music?
Cool music.
I don't know, man. It's late nights get weird. Late nights get weird. I was gonna say, I was in the middle about to say some dope music, and then I just
oh my god. I mean, I was gonna say "See You in Florida, Kid," but we're gonna play you out with some cool music, some dope rhymes,
some real snazzy tunes.
If we had the copyright, we play "Miami" by Will Smith, but we're just gonna play some Black Sheep Optimist, Skywalking. Peace, everybody.
Peace.